A woman named Cassie Chadwick walked into a big city bank. She had no job. She had no money to her name. But she asked for a loan of hundreds of thousands of dollars. An impossible request. The bank president listened closely. She whispered a secret so big, so powerful that he gave her the money right away. No questions asked. She walked out a rich woman, all because of a few quiet words. Her lie was a work of art. She told people she was the secret daughter of Andrew Carnegie, the richest man in the world. But here's the clever part. She said Carnegie was ashamed of her. He wanted to keep her hidden. To make sure she stayed quiet, he had given her special papers. They were called promissory notes. These notes were promises to pay her millions of dollars upon his death. The story was perfect. It explained why no one had ever heard of her. This all happened during a time called the Gilded Age. It was an age of incredible new wealth. Huge mansions were built overnight. Everyone was trying to climb the social ladder. People were blinded by big names and big money. In this world, the name Carnegie was like a magic key. It could open any door. It could unlock any vault. Just being connected to that name meant you were important. It meant you were trusted. And Cassie used that magic key better than anyone. Here is the true genius of her trick. She never actually tried to cash those fake papers from Carnegie. That would have been too risky. Instead, she used them as proof that she would be rich one day. This proof is called collateral. It was like showing a banker a treasure map. She didn't ask for the treasure. She just asked for a small loan to buy some shovels. The bankers saw the map, believed the treasure was real, and happily gave her the money. They all wanted to be friends with Carnegie's future heir. But who was this woman really? She was not a secret daughter of a rich man. Her real name was Elizabeth Bigley. She grew up poor and had a long history of small-time tricks and lies. But she had one incredible gift. She was a brilliant actor. When she pretended to be Cassie Chadwick, she played the part perfectly. She never acted desperate for money. Instead, she acted like her great fortune was a heavy weight, a terrible burden she had to carry. To prove her story, Cassie needed to do something bold. One of her lawyers was still not sure if she was telling the truth. So, she planned a trip to New York City. She told the lawyer they would visit Andrew Carnegie's home. The lawyer, curious and a little doubtful, went with her to the grand mansion on Fifth Avenue. This was the moment where her whole story would either work or fall apart. The scene was set perfectly. The lawyer waited outside in a carriage, his eyes fixed on the front door of the huge house. Cassie walked up the steps confidently. She went inside and disappeared from view. The lawyer sat and waited. Minutes felt like hours. He was sitting right outside the home of one of the richest men in the world, waiting for a secret daughter to prove her claim. Then, the door opened. Cassie walked out, holding a piece of paper. It was a promissory note, a promise to pay, for $500,000. It appeared to have Andrew Carnegie's signature on it. The lawyer saw her walk directly out of that house with that note. That was all the proof he needed. Of course, it was all a trick. Cassie had only spoken to a housekeeper inside. The note was a fake she had made before she even got there. With new, bigger loans, Cassie built a world that looked real. She moved back to Cleveland and bought a huge mansion on the city's famous Millionaires Row. This wasn't just a home. It was a stage for her grand performance. She was showing everyone that she belonged among the super rich. Her spending was wild. She filled the mansion with the most expensive furniture and art she could find. She bought diamonds, lots of them. People said she bought them by the shovelful. Her lifestyle was so over the top that it became its own proof. People thought that nobody could spend money like that unless they really had it. Her lie was now a giant, glittering spectacle. So why did smart, experienced bankers fall for it? The biggest reason was simple greed. They weren't just thinking about the interest on the loans. They were dreaming bigger. They believed they were getting a secret, inside connection to the Carnegie fortune. This was their chance to do business with the richest family in America. But it was more than just greed. It was also about feeling special. Cassie made each banker believe he was the only one she trusted with her big secret. This made them feel important. It made them feel powerful. They were not just bankers. They were guardians of a huge secret, and they didn't want to lose that special status by asking too many questions. Cassie used their own pride against them. The fear of being left out of the deal of a lifetime was stronger than their caution. If they questioned her, they might be pushed out, and another banker would get the glory. So they kept giving her money, each one hoping to be her favorite when the massive inheritance finally came through. But a lie that big cannot last forever. The beginning of the end started with just one person. A banker from Massachusetts named Herbert Newton grew nervous. He had loaned Cassie a very large amount of money, and he was starting to worry he would never see it again. His fear finally boiled over. In 1904, Herbert Newton decided he had waited long enough. He filed a lawsuit against Cassie Chadwick, demanding his money back. The amount was huge, equal to millions of dollars today. This single lawsuit, a piece of paper filed in a court, was the first domino to fall. It would soon bring her entire fake world crashing down. The lawsuit finally forced a question nobody dared to ask. For years, the bankers were too afraid, or too greedy, to check the facts. Now, they had no choice. Reporters and investigators finally reached out to the one man who could end it all. They went straight to the source. They asked Andrew Carnegie himself. His answer was quick. It was brutal. He said he had never met a woman named Cassie Chadwick. He had never signed any notes for her. The papers promising millions of dollars were complete forgeries. The news hit the financial world like a lightning strike. The lie that held up fortunes was suddenly gone. A shockwave of panic spread from one bank to another. The grand illusion had shattered. The collapse was immediate and devastating. The Citizens National Bank of Oberlin, whose president was one of Cassie's biggest lenders, failed completely. It vanished overnight, taking the life savings of countless local families with it. Other powerful banks teetered on the edge of ruin. This whole story wasn't just about fake papers. It was a story about the incredible power of a famous name. The name Carnegie was like a magic word. It was a symbol of total trust and endless money. Cassie Chadwick didn't sell a real product. She didn't offer a smart investment. She sold access to a myth. She sold the feeling of being connected to the richest man in the world, and people paid millions for that feeling. This shows us something deep about human nature. The bankers weren't just tricked by a clever woman. They were willing participants in their own downfall. They wanted to believe her story so badly. They wanted it to be true because it promised them everything they dreamed of. It promised them easy wealth, higher status, and a connection to real power. They chose to believe the lie because the truth wasn't as exciting. In the end, Cassie Chadwick was caught. She was sent to prison, where she later died. But for 8 long years, she fooled some of the smartest, richest men in the country. Was she just a simple criminal? Or was she a brilliant, destructive genius who saw a weakness in the system and exploited it perfectly? The trial was a huge show. The courtroom in Cleveland was packed every single day. Newspapers from all over the country sent reporters. Everyone wanted to see the woman who had fooled America's smartest bankers. She entered the room not like a criminal, but like a star, wearing fancy clothes. In court, she did something amazing. She stuck to her story. Her lawyers argued that she was the secret, illegitimate daughter of Andrew Carnegie. She claimed the notes were real, and she was only trying to protect her powerful father's reputation. It was a lie so bold, some people in the room almost believed it. But the facts were simple. The prosecution brought in experts. They showed the jury how the signatures on the notes were fakes. They weren't even good fakes. One by one, the bankers she had tricked took the stand. They had to admit they never actually asked Carnegie if the notes were real. The jury saw through the act. They didn't need much time to decide. The word came back. Guilty. The grand performance was over. With one word from the jury, the fantasy life of Cassie Chadwick, the pretend heir, came crashing down. The dream was officially dead. The judge gave her a tough sentence. 10 years in federal prison. He said her crimes were not just about money. She had attacked the very idea of trust, which was the glue that held the world of business together. Her con had shaken the faith people had in the system. Imagine the change. One day, you are living in a mansion on Millionaire's Row, wearing diamonds and ordering people around. The next day, you are in a small, cold prison cell. All the fancy dresses, the jewels, the parties, they all vanished. Only the hard reality of her choices was left. And what about Andrew Carnegie, the man at the center of the lie? He never came to the trial. He was asked what he thought about her. He didn't sound angry. He simply said he felt sorry for the woman who had used his name to build a world of fantasy. In prison, away from the lights and the attention, her health began to fail. The woman who had seemed so strong and confident grew weak. She died after just 2 years behind bars. It seemed like the story was finally over. But she had one last trick planned. This whole crazy story shows us something important. It shows the power of a good story. People didn't just believe in fake papers. They believed in the idea of a secret daughter, a hidden romance, and a Cinderella story. We are all ready to believe something amazing, especially if it promises us something we want. Even after she was gone, her games continued. She had left instructions with her lawyer. A box filled with what she claimed were more forged notes and jewels was to be sent to Andrew Carnegie. It was her final act of defiance. A last little whisper of the con, reminding everyone that in her mind, she was always Carnegie's heir.